Hello and welcome to another 31 Days of Horror 2018 video. Toronto After Dark edition. Yes, we are looking at film number 18 of the 31 Days of Horror, and I believe it may be 8, 10, 12, 16 of the festival. Almost 18 and 18. Ooh. Yeah, 16th film of the festival, and we're going with an anthology film. Love anthology films. Essentially, it's like a bunch of short films. So, short films tend to work really, really well. They're compressed. Everything's direct to the point. They don't have to have all this exposition going on. So, they're often really good. So that's why I like anthology films. You put a bunch of short films together, give them a wraparound, boom, movie. And yes, so Nightmare Cinema from 2018. Now this one is something that's been put together by Mick Garris, the guy who did, you know who Mick Garris is. And having done the Masters of Horror, put together the Master of Horror series, and he had all these aspirations, and one of the projects he wanted to do was essentially do a sort of like a Masters of Horror type thing, but just horror in general, and pick directors from all over the world and have them do, episodes and stuff. So this is kind of what he could get funding for. He couldn't get funding for that. He couldn't, like a television series is what he wanted to do. Couldn't get funding for that. He thought maybe film series where, something along similar, couldn't get funding for that. So eventually he managed to get funding for this movie, and he put that together, bringing together 5, because there's 5 little stories from different directors. First one being from Alejandro Brugues, who brought One of the Dead to us. Yes, One of the Dead director does one of these segments. Another segment is from Joe Dante, the master. I think he was in Master. He did Masters of Horror. Because he's the man behind the Howling and Gremlins, right? So y'all know who Joe Dante is. And then of course Mick Garris did one. And like I said, he was, the guy behind Masters of Horror. But I mean, he directed Sleepwalkers. He's the writer on Critters 2, the writer on Hocus Pocus. I think he did the screenplay for The Fly 2 as well. What else did he did Psycho 4, Quicksilver Highway, Riding the Bullet, etc., etc., etc. Anyways, you know who Mick Garris is. And then he went to Japan for one of the directors with Ryui Kitamura. I think that's how you spell his name, or say his name. Ryui. I don't know. I really need to brush up on my Japanese. But he's the guy who directed Midnight Meat Train, Azumi, Godzilla Final Wars, and of course, I think his first one that really broke him out there was Versus, the zombie action film. And then finally he got David Slade, lesser known director, but still one with some really good credits to his name, including Hard Candy. I love the poster to Hard Candy. I've always loved it. It's fantastic. He also directed 30 Days of Night. But he did some television as well. He's done a lot of producing stuff. He directed some Hannibal episodes and American Gods. So yeah, he's not quite as diverse as, say, Joe Dante is, but still, horror director, great addition. Now, the idea behind Nightmare Cinema is that it's shot at the Rialto Cinema, the rundown Rialto Cinema, essentially, where there's 5 stories, so 5 essentially like strangers not at the same time, each individually come to this cinema and are drawn inside to see a movie starring them, essentially. And these movies show like their deepest, darkest fears, or secrets, or or how they're how they might die, essentially. We'll say kind of, because some of them are really out there. And in the theater, we get the character of the projectionist, played by, believe it or not, Mickey Rourke. It's such a weird thing to see Mickey Rourke show up in this movie. I get it. People knew him, and that's how he got involved in the film. But yeah, he plays the projectionist, and it seems like the projectionist kills somebody at one point. I don't know. It's a weird character. It would make for a great, like, if this, went off and ended up being like a television series, the projectionist would be, he's like your crypt keeper, right? Because this cinema is the wraparound story. So all these people coming there, he's the one kind of dealing with them. Now, I don't know. I didn't write down the names of all this, the little movies, but one of them is about I'm trying to think. One of them is about oh man, there's 5 of them. I'm trying to remember them now, right? One of them was about a Catholic priest. The Catholic priest was the guy coming inside, and that priest was played by Maurice Bernard, who you probably don't know him, but he was on General Hospital for a long time. All My Children, things of that nature. And that one involves it's a possession film, and I'm not going to tell you which director did which one, just in case you see it, because that's kind of part of the fun of watching these things, is trying to pick out which director did which segment without looking at the credits or having any reviews or anything like that. Just watch them and then try and see if you can figure out who did which one. But yeah, it's like at a Catholic school of sorts, and he's I guess he'd be the guy in charge there. Trying to think, there was another person in that one. Yes, there was a nun played by Mariella Garriga. She's been, like a lot of different things. Apparently she was, I guess this is, she had apparently been in a recurring thing called Horror Vacui, which I'm guessing is like an Italian horror series or something like that. I never heard of it, but yeah, it's unknown, but it's a possession, essentially, story. There's another story which is about plastic surgery, which has, believe it or not, Richard Chamberlain as the plastic surgeon. He's not the guy going into the theater. I don't know who was. I don't know. But yeah, Richard Chamberlain, he's one of those guys who's been around forever. So yeah, he was brought in there because it was one of the directors knew of his work as Dr. Kildare. He was Dr. Kildare, so they wanted, thought bringing him back to play another doctor role would be great. And he was retired. I think the guy's like over 80 years old, and doesn't look it, believe it or not. I think he's had some plastic surgery. So yeah, so they brought him in to be a doctor again, sort of as a nod. So that was kind of cool to see him in there. Then there's another story which is sort of plays about mental illness. It's all in black and white, and it has Adam Godley. I guess he's playing a psychiatrist in the film, and he's one of those guys where you more know him to see him than you do know his name. But he was like in Moonfleet, the TV miniseries, Around the World in 80 Days, the new one, Nanny McPhee, Son of Rambo, X-Files, I Want to Believe. I think that's where I first saw him. Well, first I recognized him from was that. But yeah, he's been in a whole bunch of stuff. If you watched Suits, you might know him from that. But that one's a weird one regarding mental illness. And give me you know what? A lot of these episodes have a very Tales from the Crypt, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone-y type of feel, where they're one thing at to begin with, and then they have a twist, and then it becomes something else type thing. So there is that. Then there's another one called segment. I think the segment was called Dead, about a young boy who's like a pianist and his family, and when they're leaving, I guess a recital he had, his family gets gunned down, and this guy comes after him and shoots him, and he ends up dying. And when he comes back, he can see dead people, and of course it's all about the play of the reaction, dealing with death, dealing with the passing of family, hospitals, dead people, and Orson Chaplin plays the guy who I guess I don't know if he's a robber or what, because he doesn't really say what he's trying to do, but he's a guy who you might know from if Evil Bong 666, if you watch that, he's Evil Bong High Five, Evil Bong 420. He's in a lot of the Evil Bong movies. He also has roles in things like American Horror Story, and Lucifer, and a lot of little bits here. Karate Kill, if you've seen that. But yeah, he's not somebody who I generally know, but he did look familiar. That's why I looked him up. And that's why I thought he looked familiar. And so, yeah, he was... he actually comes back, and this is a weird part of that film. He actually goes to the hospital to kill the kid. I don't know why. Because he saw him, I guess, was the whole idea. He saw his face, so he has to kill him. But, I mean, going to the trouble of going to a hospital where there's, possibly cameras somewhere, and committing murder in the hospital, I don't know. Seemed a little weird. But, yeah, so there's that story. Another story is sort of like a slasher story, with a bunch of like teenagers, and there's the welder. The welder is the the slasher character, played by Eric Nelson, who was in A Walk Among the Tombstones, The Bay, if you saw that show. He was in a lot of All My Children, though, for the most part. But yeah, he is the welder, and he's sort of like going around and chasing down, killing people. and it's very much a slasher type aspect. Very funny. It is the one I think short from the film that most people say they liked, and then the rest of them they didn't. But everyone's different. Everyone's a little, these are very different, 5 very different stories. And again, this one just happens to be upbeat. It happens to be funny. It happens to be a little bit different. And yeah, it's solid. It's, has a little twist, roughly around the 3/4 way mark, and then it continues going. Yeah, and I want to give you the directors to these, but at the same time, I don't, right? Every time I talk about these, I want to say, oh, and that was, by this director, and you can see blah, 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 blah. But anyways, did I give you all 5? So I gave you the slasher one, the black and white one, the dead one, the Catholic priest, plastic surgeon. Okay, so that's all 5. Now, in terms of, there's the thing. Each segment has a very, very different feel to them. They were essentially given carte blanche to do whatever they wanted. There was no wraparound beforehand. The wraparound came, I guess, afterwards, and they sort of mixed them all in to make it work. I don't know what kind of... I don't even know if they were given the idea to, it has to have somebody in be their deepest, darkest fears or something. I don't know. But I do believe it was all shot in the U.S., in the L.A. area type thing. I think all the filmmakers were brought in to do it. My biggest complaint about it was how the people were going into the theater. In the first, segment, the person going into the theater, she sees her name on the marquee, and it's like, why is my name? And the name of the segment, why is my name there? And so she goes over and goes to the ticket booth. There's nobody in the ticket booth, and then the ticket comes out. Okay, this is weird. And then she goes in. Of course, it's abandoned, and she gets directed to a place to sit. Spotlight comes down on a chair, and then she gets thrown into the chair and watches it. In the next aspect, it's 2 people making out, and they're like, oh, do you want to make out in the theater? And then they just, the doors open. So then they go into the theater, into the balcony, and make out, and then the movie comes on. In the third one... Which one was the third one? I don't know. Either way, I think the priest sees his name on the marquee, but he doesn't go get a ticket. He just walks in. And I think that's it. Everybody else just sort of walks into this theater. So I felt there was a little bit of... I really wish everybody would have had a very similar way of going to the theater, rather than how they did, because the 2 people making out and just sort of busting into the theater, that's kind of on par with their characters, but everybody else, the priest, you would think he would go get a ticket, but he just seems to walk in. And the other ones, why are they going into this theater? They just go into the theater? I don't know. The motivations just didn't seem to be there, but yeah, so they go into the theater. Sometimes you see the projectionist, sometimes you don't. Odd. If you're getting Mickey Rourke in there, you would think you would have him more involved in the film, but whatever. And I would have expected a little bit more from his character. He could have been a really cool character. I think he could have spouted words of wisdom every time. Not like the comical type, like the Crypt Keeper, but something more meaningful or something like that related to them and related to their stories. But outside of that, it was a decent anthology. I love the Rialto Theater. I love the outside. I love the inside. Unfortunately, it's been shut down because it doesn't meet earthquake code. Yeah, so they can't use the building because it doesn't meet earthquake code. They're trying to get it, I guess, historic site designation or something like that. But that may not happen. I don't think that. It's a movie theater in LA. Wow, okay. Well, made not in LA, but in California. So, yeah. I don't know. I think the only way you're going to save that is if you take it and you essentially try and take everything out of it, make it earthquakes, you know, essentially rebuild it, take it down, do a historic deconstruction and reconstruction of the theater, but make it earthquake safe. I think that's the only way you'd be able to save that building, honestly. But again, this has nothing to do with the movie. I'm off on a tangent. So yeah, Nightmare Cinema. I'll give it a, you know, it's a good solid 3.5 out of 5. I think I liked more of the segments than a lot of the other people I've talked to. And the one that I liked second most of the people found they were near the end of their list, which is too bad because I thought it was decent. But everybody seems to have the slasher one. That's the top one. That's the one that everybody likes, and then the other ones are just like, yeah, not so much. But again, they're all very, very different little short stories, and yeah, they are what they are, right? So, with that in mind, I would give it a recommend if you're into short films, anthologies. If you liked Creepshow, there's no reason why you shouldn't like this. They're very, very similar. I mean, the little shorts in Creepshow aren't that fantastic either, right? So I'd say some of these are better than those. So there you go. You're not going to like all of them, but you should at least like some of them, right? And that's Nightmare Cinema 2018 for the 31 Days of Horror 2018 Toronto After Dark edition video. More videos to come because I'm only at 18 right now. I got to get up to 31, so stay tuned and comment down below if you've seen the film. It's been playing, festivals. So if you've seen it somewhere, comment, or maybe it will be coming out to video. Mick Garris was in attendance, so he did confirm that it is going to come out. So hey, if you're watching this a year down the road and you see it and you go, hey, yeah, I like that movie, comment down below. Again, keep it spoiler free because not everybody gets to see things. I know people who still haven't seen Jaws. When did that come out? Anyways, yeah, spoiler free. Tell me if you liked it down below. Till next video, take care. Have a good one.